Afternoon, everyone. At the last Mitel Next in Dallas, we spent some time going through hospitality, and in particular, how mobility and cloud was reinventing that. How we could lead to better guest outcomes by connecting guests and staff in a different way. Today, we're going to turn the lens towards healthcare. So healthcare is a huge, complex global vertical. As you can see from the chart, there's trillions of dollars spent around the world, tens of millions of people employed, and hundreds of billions of dollars spent on IT. But fundamentally, healthcare is about people. It touches all of us through all stages of our lives. It touches every segment of the verticals, every vertical you can imagine. Every person in the world is touched by healthcare, more so than any others. It's also, there's a diversity in healthcare in terms of how things are deployed around the world. You know, private systems in the US, public systems in Europe and places like Canada. But there are a lot of common themes and challenges. And probably the most significant challenge that exists for healthcare today is a demographic one, a sociological one. What you can see on the chart here is demographic data from the EU. But it could just as well been data we were looking from Canada, the US, or anywhere in the developed world. What you see is a bubble coming. You know, the famous baby boom bubble is approaching seniorhood. And that's significant for a number of reasons. One, we're going to have a lot more seniors, people entering their senior years over the next several decades. In fact, in the next decade alone, in the next 10 years, there will be 50% more seniors coming into the 69 to 79 age category. And more than that, life expectancies are going up. So we have this real stretch, which I think obviously is a good thing, but we're going to have many, many more seniors. And if you look a little bit farther down the demographic chart, you'll see the bubble starts to come back. So not only do we have more seniors, but we're going to have less working age adults to pay for it, whether that's in taxes in public systems or healthcare premiums in private ones. Just to add a little bit more interest to it, as people age, their healthcare costs go up. So when you combine these three factors together and you think about how much money as a society we already spend on healthcare. In public systems, it's approaching a third of government spending. 10% of GDP is spent on healthcare. We can't take the way we do it today and spend our way out of this problem. We have to look at it in a different way. So let's look at one segment of healthcare, elder care, and think a little bit about what a solution might look like that'll address some of those issues. And there's some common themes that emerged in elder care in terms of if we want to address this fundamental issue. And the first one is one probably those of you in the room who are dealing with aging parents, Rich, myself, and I'm sure many in the room have already felt, is that we're going to have to use informal caregivers more heavily. That means all of us are going to be more involved in the care of our elders than we would have been 10 or 15 years ago. The second, and this is supported strongly by the desires of families and elders, is to keep elders at home longer. If you can stay at home, there's significant institutional cost savings you can avoid. And then third is more effective use of those scarce healthcare resources. Rich's example was case in point. If you can direct the resources effectively, which is actually more challenging when you're not in an institutional setting, but if effectively to where people are, then we can get more with those very thin resources. So what I want to do now is go through a little video that shows a solution that pulls all three of those aspects together. So I think that video is a really good case study of how we need to approach verticals more generally. What you get is a slice of the appropriate pieces of IT infrastructure. You cement it together with some vertical-specific applications and devices and to solve a particular need for a group of people. That solution is being used by over 7,000 elders in the Netherlands today. So let's look a little bit more into the solution to kind of get an understanding of where the power and how it fits to the challenge of the vertical. So first, let's look at the infrastructure. So the infrastructure that underlies this is public mobile infrastructure. That pendant shown in the video is directly connected to the public mobile network. And therefore, it inherits a whole series of powerful attributes. Always on, highly scalable, security. That pendant would work as well in a garden, in the elder's garden, or the grocery store down the street as it does in her apartment. Also, it gives a deployment model that makes this practical. The public mobile world has figured out how to deploy without truck rolls, without service technicians. The experience to take advantage of the power of this comes out of the box. Second, the applications that glue this together from the vertical context are all cloud-based. This gives the simplicity and the flexibility that allows this to be deployed to millions of households. And third, there's specific and targeted vertical apps, in this case, even devices, that pull it together to make it purpose-built to solve the vertical's needs. So when you look at that purpose-built stuff, you said the first and most visible thing is the device. And it's a simple one-button pendant device. It's probably the simplest way to engage this solution. Obviously, you have to have, and we do have, other ways to engage, from mobile phones to wrist form factors and so on. But regardless of the kind of device you choose, what it needs is daily utility, which means use it every day. So in the case in the pendant, we were showing an alarm case where it was a long push, in fact, a whole series of higher functioning issues. But there's a day-to-day use as well, which is a light touch. And a light touch just reaches out to that social network, family, friends, to, I don't know, arrange to have a cup of tea or talk about the most recent German handball victory. But and the next most important connection is how that connects into a social network. So the granddaughter Eva is running a social application specialized for this solution on her mobile phone. And that's important in a number of reasons, because it allows the family, friends, and neighbors to share care effectively, to pass it around. Someone's always looking after Rose. It allows them to share and keep up to date, and it gives them an effective way to engage the medical system. So when the granddaughter came and made the call out, she wasn't calling on her mobile phone, she was calling from the app. And that's significant because of the context that it gives. Calling from the app, it gives, even in the most simple case, what it gives is it lets it know it's a call about the grandmother, even though it's coming from the granddaughter's mobile phone. It also gives a whole series of references and information that allows the healthcare organizations to couple that to previous calls, healthcare records, and pull essentially the power of the healthcare system to bear based on the engagement rather than a random mobile call. On the flip side, it's very important, and you may not have noticed this piece, when we went from the dispatch agent, having a mobile care network allows a single point of contact. You don't have to keep phone numbers for multiple siblings, home phones, having calling trees, and a whole series of complexity that one number connects the family. And the family uses the social app to keep everything up to date. And the final thing I'd like to point out was the power of using a mobile and cloud infrastructure allows use cases like the M2M use case of opening the doors. So, while we've spent quite a bit of time today talking about elder care, it's not a big jump to see that many of these principles are extendable more generally across the healthcare and beyond. You know, think about things, for example, like post-operative care, Rich's case, or specialist care. It's not a big jump to extend it. But healthcare, first and foremost, is about people helping people. Technology is not going to replace people. But technology has an important role to play in helping those people communicate. It's an important role in something that we're all heavily invested in, getting older and helping those we love get older gracefully. And you know, Rich, which is, I think is true in so many things in life, and it's certainly true in healthcare, it often comes down to communications. Thank you, Duncan.